The airport was alive with the noise of rolling suitcases, hurried footsteps, and constant boarding announcements. In the middle of the chaos, Maria tightly held her little daughter's hand while dragging along an old, faded suitcase that looked like it had survived 100 journeys. Her daughter, barely 6, tugged at her arm, whining softly about being hungry, while Maria tried to calm her with a smile that masked her own exhaustion. Every step she took carried the weight of sacrifice. This wasn't a trip for vacation or leisure. She was flying abroad in search of a job that could secure food, schooling, and stability for her child. The lines at the check-in counter were long, and the people around her, dressed in sleek business suits or holding luxury handbags, seemed to belong to a different world entirely. Maria, in her simple blouse and skirt, felt invisible, yet painfully exposed at the same time. Just when she thought she could breathe, disaster struck. The zipper on her suitcase gave way, and her belongings spilled onto the polished airport floor: shirts, children's clothes, even a pair of worn shoes. Heat rushed to her cheeks as curious eyes turned toward her. Some passers-by whispered, others stepped aside to avoid the mess, but no one offered to help. Maria knelt down quickly, trying to stuff everything back into the bag with trembling hands, whispering to her daughter not to cry. Her pride stung, but she refused to break down. Just as she struggled to close the suitcase again, a familiar voice cut through the noise, gentle, warm, and wrapped in memories of a lifelong past. "Maria?" She froze, her hands still gripping the suitcase. Slowly, she lifted her head, her heart thundering in her chest. Standing there was a face she never thought she'd see again. Maria's breath caught as her eyes locked with his. Daniel. Her first love. The boy who once held her hand under the mango tree near their old school, the one who whispered promises of forever, now stood before her in the middle of a bustling airport terminal. Only, he wasn't a boy anymore. He wore a crisp navy suit that looked expensive, his shoes polished, his posture confident. His presence seemed to command the space around him, and for a fleeting second, Maria wondered if she was dreaming. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling, caught between shock and disbelief. He smiled, that same smile that once made her heart race. Without hesitation, Daniel knelt down and began picking up the clothes scattered on the floor. Passers-by stopped staring now, as if his quiet authority erased Maria's embarrassment. "Here, let me help," he said softly, carefully folding her daughter's small sweater before placing it neatly into the bag. Maria swallowed hard, overwhelmed by the sudden rush of emotions. She wanted to speak, to ask where he had been all these years, why he disappeared, but the words stuck in her throat. Her daughter peeked shyly at Daniel, clutching her mother's skirt. Daniel's eyes softened when he noticed the child, curiosity flickering there, though he didn't ask. The suitcase was finally closed, thanks to his steady hands. For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of years between them. Then Daniel broke it, his voice calm yet filled with unspoken meaning. "Let me walk you to the check-in counter." Maria hesitated. Pride told her to decline, but her heart, still fragile from seeing him again, whispered yes. And so, side by side, they began to walk, old memories stirring with every step. As they reached the waiting area near the boarding gates, Maria felt an odd mix of comfort and discomfort. Sitting beside Daniel again felt strangely familiar, yet the years of separation made every second heavy with questions. Her daughter leaned sleepily against her arm, while Daniel sat across from them, his sharp suit and polished watch a stark contrast to her modest clothes. "So, how have you been all these years?" Daniel asked, his tone gentle but probing. Maria forced a smile, choosing her words carefully. "Busy. Life has been challenging. But my daughter keeps me going." She stroked the little girl's hair, avoiding his eyes. She didn't want pity, she wanted dignity. Daniel's gaze lingered on her, thoughtful, as if searching for the pieces of the girl he once loved within the woman sitting before him. Finally, Maria gathered the courage to ask, "And you? What do you do now?" There was a pause. Then, with a casual tone, Daniel said, "I run a company." I'm the CEO of an international firm. I was in Singapore for a conference. Just got back. The words hit Maria like a wave. She blinked, stunned. A CEO. The boy who once shared simple dreams of building a small home together had become a man of influence and wealth. She stared at her worn-out shoes, feeling the invisible wall grow taller between them. Daniel noticed her silence and leaned forward. "Maria," he said softly, "don't look at me like I'm someone different. I'm still the same Daniel who sat with you under the stars, talking about dreams." Her throat tightened. Part of her wanted to believe him, but another part whispered that their worlds were no longer the same. The loudspeaker announced boarding for Maria's flight, and her heart began to race. Time was slipping away, yet so many words still hung unspoken between them. Daniel's eyes never left her, and when he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight she hadn't expected. "Maria," he said quietly, "I need you to know something. I never forgot you. Not once." Maria froze. She wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it. How could a man like him, successful and powerful, hold on to memories of a girl who struggled just to survive? Yet his eyes told the truth. They were filled with longing, regret, and something deeper, love that had endured years of silence. "I searched for you," Daniel continued, his tone breaking slightly. "But life, it pulled me away. Every success I had felt empty because you weren't there to share it. And now, seeing you again, it feels like fate is giving me another chance." Maria's chest tightened. She wanted to tell him about the nights she cried alone, the days she worked herself to exhaustion just to put food on the table, the loneliness of raising her daughter without a partner. But pride and fear sealed her lips. Instead, she forced a smile. "Daniel, you've built an incredible life. I'm happy for you. But my world, it's different. I can't afford to dream like we used to." Daniel leaned down, gently addressing her daughter with a warmth that startled Maria. "Hi there," he said softly, his eyes kind. The little girl looked up at him shyly, then smiled. In that moment, Maria's heart wavered. She saw how easily Daniel reached for a connection, how natural it felt. The gate attendant called for final boarding. Maria stood torn between her duty and her heart. The final boarding call echoed through the terminal, sharp and urgent, as if pressing Maria to make her decision. Her daughter tugged at her hand, eyes wide with innocence. Daniel stood before her, calm yet desperate, his gaze searching hers as though he already knew her heart's silent battle. "Maria," he said firmly but tenderly, "you don't have to do this alone anymore. Let me be here for you, both of you." Her chest tightened, tears threatening to spill. She had fought so long, carried so much on her shoulders, that the thought of leaning on someone again felt almost impossible. Especially him, her first love, now a man who had everything. Could she trust him not to disappear again? Could she risk her daughter's heart as well as her own? Her daughter's small voice broke the silence. "Mommy, I like him," she whispered, smiling shyly at Daniel. That simple, innocent truth struck deeper than any speech could. Maria's walls crumbled. She looked at Daniel again, searching for doubt, hesitation, or pity, but all she saw was sincerity and a fierce determination she remembered from long ago. Slowly, she let out the breath she had been holding. The flight attendant gave a last call, and Maria's choice became clear. With trembling hands, she pulled her daughter close and shook her head gently at the gate. She wasn't boarding that plane. Not today. Daniel's relief was visible, his smile breaking through with raw emotion. He reached for her hand, and for the first time in years, Maria didn't pull away. Together, they walked out of the terminal, not as strangers passing through, but as two souls given a second chance. The airport, once a symbol of parting and struggle, had become the very place where a new story began. Marco stood trembling under the bright lights, his hands clutching the microphone so tightly his knuckles turned white. The cheers of the audience still thundered around him, but all he could focus on was Simon's gaze. The boy's heart raced. He thought maybe Simon would give him a simple yes. Maybe 2 or 3 judges would push him through. That alone would have been enough. But Simon wasn't done. He leaned back, tapped his pen on the desk, and then leaned forward again, his eyes never leaving Marco. "You know," Simon began, his voice carrying above the fading cheers, "I've done this show for a long time. And sometimes, once in a while, someone walks out here who changes everything. Marco, you are one of those people." The crowd screamed, sensing what was coming. Marco's jaw dropped, his eyes already filling with tears. He shook his head, mouthing, "No, this can't be real." Simon pushed his chair back, stood up, and walked toward the golden buzzer. The theater erupted in chants of "Golden! Golden!" Marco covered his mouth with one hand, his body shaking uncontrollably. Then it happened. Simon slammed his palm onto the golden buzzer. The theater exploded in cheers as golden confetti rained down from the ceiling like a shower of stars. Marco fell to his knees, sobbing, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. The confetti clung to his hair, his face, his clothes, shimmering under the stage lights. The camera cut to the audience where his mother, flown in secretly by the producers, was crying uncontrollably, shouting, "That's my son! That's my son!" Marco lifted his hands toward the sky, thanking God, his voice breaking as he whispered, "Papa, we did it." It was the kind of moment the world would never forget. Golden confetti still floated through the air as Marco knelt on the stage, overcome with emotion. His body trembled, his tears mixing with laughter as he tried to take in the reality of what had just happened. From the wings of the stage, Terry Crews ran out, his towering frame full of energy and warmth. He rushed to Marco, pulling him into a tight embrace. "You did it, young man. You made history tonight." Terry shouted, his booming voice echoing over the cheers. Marco clung to him like a little brother, sobbing into his shoulder. The judges stood, leaving their seats to gather near the stage. Heidi, her eyes sparkling with tears, called out, "That was pure magic, Marco. You gave us chills." Sofia placed a hand over her heart, her voice trembling as she added, "You sang from your soul. We felt every single word." Howie Mandel leaned over the desk, pointing directly at Marco. "Do you realize what you've just done? You've shown the entire world that dreams don't have borders. You are proof that greatness can come from anywhere." And then Simon walked to the edge of the panel, smiling, a genuine, rare smile. The crowd hushed slightly, eager for his words. "Marco," Simon said firmly, "you didn't just sing tonight. You told your story. And the world is going to remember it." His voice softened, "You are a star." Marco bowed repeatedly, whispering, "Thank you," over and over, his voice still shaking with disbelief. The confetti rained on, shimmering like a blessing. The boy from Quezon City, once unsure if he belonged on this stage, now stood at the center of one of AGT's most unforgettable moments. It was a night of tears, hugs, and dreams coming true. That night, Marco's Golden Buzzer audition spread across the world like wildfire. Within hours, clips of his performance were trending on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Headlines popped up everywhere: "Filipino teen brings Simon Cowell to his feet," and "Golden Buzzer moment that stunned the world." Social media filled with reactions, celebrities retweeted his video, influencers praised his humility, and fans from different countries flooded his accounts with love. Back in Quezon City, the streets came alive. Neighbors gathered around small televisions and cell phones, watching in disbelief as their boy, their Marco, stood on one of the biggest stages in the world, covered in golden confetti. Children screamed his name, mothers wiped away tears, and old tricycle drivers bragged, "I knew that kid would make it big." His mother, who had been secretly flown to the US and seen the moment live, now called home in tears. He did it. He really did it. For Marco, the whirlwind was overwhelming. He sat backstage after the show, still in shock, holding the confetti in his hands as though it were treasure. His phone buzzed non-stop with messages from classmates, teachers, and strangers. But in the middle of the chaos, Marco remained grounded. He spoke softly in an interview, saying, "This isn't just for me. This is for my mom, my papa in heaven, and every Filipino kid who dreams but feels like it's impossible." Dreams don't have borders. The world had discovered him, but Marco wasn't thinking about fame. He was thinking about responsibility, the chance to honor his roots and give back. For him, the Golden Buzzer was not the end, but the beginning of a journey. And as millions watched, one truth became clear: the boy from Quezon City had just become a global star.